Okay. So welcome everybody to the event on motivation. I'm Dr. Susan Feddix, co-director and founding member of Women in Research Ireland, or WERI for short. Welcome to our second event of a 4-part mental health workshop series for researchers in 2021, which is sponsored by the Royal Society of Chemistry, Inclusion and Diversity Fund. Today's event is Motivation Mojo 101, Missing That Thrill, and our guest speaker is Dr. Kesiena Ebenade, a Pracademic who will be enlightening us about action research, working outside our comfort zone, and tools to support us on our journey of becoming. So if you're feeling the pandemic blues, today will help you reignite your motivation. But first, let's start with an opening poll for attendees. So these polls are anonymous, so we don't know how you're voting. So the question is, are you currently lacking motivation in any aspect of your life? You can answer yes, no, or I'm not sure. And again, your responses are completely anonymous, so we don't know how anyone is voting, so feel free to answer as you're comfortable. And so I see the votes are coming in. Okay, it's been 30 seconds, so now I'll show the results. So we see a few people, 72% have feeling lack of motivation. So this should be a good, helpful event for you. So now let me move on to, just to remind everybody, we'll be taking questions live during the event. So please type your questions into the Q&A box. And also for this event, please note that, let me launch, the live transcript. Let me enable that now. So now I've just enabled live transcript. So captioning is available. So you can use the Zoom menu options at the bottom of your screen to see the captioning for this event. And with that, we will welcome Dr. Kesiena Ebenade. Welcome.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me, Susan. So I will share my screen now with the participants. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I see it. Great.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. My name is Kesiena Ebenade, and yes, you will be stuck with me now for a few minutes. And I think the way it's going to work is I'll present for maybe just around maybe I'll finish at 1:30 with my presentation, and then we can have the remaining section for Q&A. So just 3 things you need to know about Kesiena. I say I am an active OD practitioner and also a faculty with the National College of Ireland. And a few people have asked me that what is the term Pracademic? Did you coin this term? I said no. The terminology has been in existence since the past 30 years. And I use the term to actually describe myself because it really encapsulates my practice and also my academic career. And I think what I actually bring to the field of organizational development and learning, which is actually to bridge the gap between research and practice. And I'm passionate about change and transformation. Then that also can be seen in the work that I actually do in my practice and also as an academic. And I say I care about authenticity. And the reason I say this is just as an individual, yes, I care about authenticity, but then I think what sticks out to me is the research by Deloitte that was captured in 2017. They said that it is the responsibility of an organization to create an organizational culture where authenticity is actually valued, where there's a strong presence of belonging. It's actually the openness to actually creating connections, and the options of not having to compromise the employee identity is becoming more critical in organizations. And we all know that the current workforce are actually demanding for employers to actually go beyond addressing how inclusion looks to how it feels. So for me, working in any context, that will be the first thing. I really want to be able to belong in that setting. So that's why I use that to describe myself. So action research, yes, I did an action research study between 2012 to 2016, and this was my doctoral research with the University of Bolton. And I think the reason I decided to do an action research was I really wanted to make change. And we can see from the definition that action research is really about solving real organizational problems. And something very funny happened when I wanted to embark on this journey. I engaged with some institutions in Ireland, and none of them will accept me. They all said, resign from your job and come into the university to do your research. You can do this research here. And then someone said to me, why don't you try the United Kingdom, or you could try Australia or America? So I felt the UK was closer. And I was actually given the name University of Bolton. And immediately I went on Google and I searched, and I contacted the first professor I contacted, and he said, yes, it's people like you we're actually looking for. And that made me also, that was what really made me to actually move to the UK. So action research, I would say, I usually say, is cyclical. So what I did within my research was to carry out 6 different action research cycles in that research. And really the purpose, like I mentioned earlier, of action research is really linked to organizational change and development. So it's all about the researcher actually constructed what's the issue here at the moment, and also planning actions. What are the actions that you need to plan to achieve the aim of the organization? And you take your actions, you evaluate these actions, you step back, you reflect, and you just ask the questions: what worked well, what could have worked better, and then you're looking at why did this happen, and then you make more changes. So it's cyclical, it's continuous. And I say action research is a journey for me as an individual. And the reason I say that is because I have continued to apply the action research methods in my work. So I know I finished my PhD in 2016. And while I was working in that organization where I actually carried out the research, I've moved on from there since 2018. And I'm still wearing my action research hat as well in my current organization where I'm working. I'm constantly looking at changing my practice. What are the changes I can bring in here? So it's all about applying the theories in practice, stepping back, reflecting on them and saying, did it work? Yes. Why did it not work? And then learning from the changes as they occur in the organization. So I've actually taken some steps, some pragmatic steps to transition from a practitioner to an active Pracademic. And I think what I've done in this regard is I've actually set myself at the beginning of my career where I needed to go in this journey. And we all know, because action research is cyclical. So for me, I'm also adopting that cyclical approach. So you see the baby there crawling. There's instances where I've taken baby steps. So I had to go through personal cyclical loops to facilitate my becoming as an active practitioner. So while I'm on the journey of helping the organization change and transform, I'm also on the journey as well, trying to achieve a PhD. And this journey, while I've achieved that PhD, the journey has not stopped. So it's continuous. So I would say like I was on a more like a 2 parallel journey, which is the personal development of getting a PhD, and also for the organization was to help the organization achieve its strategic aim. And that aim was to help the organization to become a learning organization. And what is a learning organization? It's an organization that adapts itself with changes happening within the organization and also outside of the organization. So this is a journey for me, and it's continuous. I really say there are times I achieve certain small goals, and once I achieve those little goals, those little wins, I reward myself, and then I set up another goal. So I use the term that my becoming is a pilgrimage and it's not really a journey. And I've asked myself certain questions. What are the skills that I need en route to becoming? There are certain skills that have helped me along the way. And the first I would say is the skill of hopeful expectation. Without hope, there really isn't any any drive for me. So I have that hope that what these challenges have set or the goals have set before me, yes, there's this hopeful expectation that I would achieve them. And I would say critical thinking as a researcher, you would need that as well. And I would say another skill again, or I'll use the word skill and strength interchangeably. So strategic planning would have helped me as well in this, because you have to be strategic as well when you are planning on routes to becoming in this journey. And then grit, there's no way you can embark on this journey without having some grit in you. And I use the word, you can have as well a little bit of stubbornness as well. And persistence, resilience, strategic mindedness. You're looking at the long-term goal of the organization. So you have to have courage. And I say bravery will be another skill and strength that would have helped me. And fine, I think I will say, looking at the glass half full, I'm very optimistic as well. And developing myself. So it's all about the self-development, always wanting to do better, comparing myself to how I was yesterday, and also ensuring that while I'm developing myself, I'm also developing those around me. And I cannot have the skill of developing others without having empathy. So empathy will be one of the skills I bring into my journey as well. And also with compassion. And then I have to wear a lot of my creativity hat and also my innovation hat as well. And whilst I'm doing this, I have to step back and say, there's going to be some self-love here, self-care here, some self-perseverance here as well. So these are some of the skills that has also enabled me on route to becoming. And what's the mindset of a becomer, if you may ask? I think the mindset of a becomer is really for you to be adaptable. And I would refer you to the quote of Daniel Goleman. So he's an emotional intelligence expert. And this is where he said that life's uncertainties require us to be adaptable. And there's no better time for us to be adaptable like this time that we are in now in the pandemic. So being adaptable means that you can quickly adjust to new situations, and you are able to handle multiple demands as they come. So for me, looking at adaptability is in the context of our changing world, and how I have used this strength and this skill to experience big shifts in my career as a practitioner and as a Pracademic. I think when the pandemic just hit, I've been wanting to move into higher education part-time just to teach and bring that knowledge from the industry back to the classroom. But I couldn't do that because with the demands from my job, 9 to 5, then by the time I get home, change and run to the college to teach. So I contacted the National College of Ireland because I'm an alumni from National College. And they wanted to accept me, but then just because of the requirement and the task of actually driving to the college after work, I found that I thought that was not going to be okay for my well-being. So when the pandemic hit, I was approached and I said, yes, why couldn't I do it? I could sit in my living room and just engage. And I've been doing that currently now. I've taught 3 modules, and I'm also currently supervising 10 master's students on their dissertation, which I'm enjoying. And I think this is where I can bring in that skill set of adaptability. So it's me just adapting to the current situation and using that as well to my strengths. So when I say this is a pilgrimage, it's all about taking the lead. And what this means is it's all about taking full responsibility for both my personal and also my professional development. So what I tend to ask myself is, have I developed the skills to become who I really want to be? And so it's all about defining what is actually my personal and my professional vision and strategy. What I mean by professional is both a practitioner and also academic strategy. Where do I see myself by the end of I looked at where do I see myself by the end of my PhD research, where do I see myself 5 years after my PhD, and where do I see myself 10 years down the line. So just putting a strategy for myself, I thought that was very, 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 very critical. So whilst I'm defining my vision and also my strategy, I was also aware that I have to attract what I want So how do I ensure that I'm actually attracting the right attitudes from my network? How do I ensure that I'm actually attracting what I want in the journey of becoming? How do I show up in the journey of becoming? So this was all the questions I was asking myself, and also putting a plan in place to say, if I want to show up this way, I need to do X, Y, Z. I love this picture because I love the lions. So I would say, if you want to go fast with the African proverb, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. And who is in my network? So that's something that's a question I ask myself. Who is in my circle? What does this mean? I had to establish the people I kept within my circle. So this will consist of my support network. How did I establish this network? I sought out these people intentionally. So I knew I was on LinkedIn and I was searching for the L&D experts globally. So these are people within my practice. So I connected with those people on LinkedIn, and if they share a post, I comment on their post and I follow them on their different blogs. I was also responding to articles they were publishing or write-ups on their blogs. So within that professional network, that was what I was doing. And within the academic space, while I was still a full-time practitioner, I was also reflecting on my work. I was presenting my work at conferences, intentionally seeking those conferences for HRD professionals. This is the human resource development professionals. So since 2015, I've been attending these conferences, presenting papers at these conferences, engaging and networking with people at conferences. So the job at NCI, it was with one of my network in a conference in Nottingham, that I told him that this is what I'm looking to do. And he as well said, don't worry, when the opportunity comes, I will let you know. And just during the pandemic, he reached out to me. He gave my name to the coordinator and they reached out to me. So I used that as well and to my advantage. So I'm looking at the people in my inner circle. So defining these people and putting them in quadrants in the circle, and thinking, these are the people, what do I need this network for? What support do they give to me? And what support do I bring to the table as well? So it's not a case of me just taking from my network. I'm also giving back to my network as well. So I have my inner circle, I have the outliers. So it's just defining who I need to pull from at different times as I go in my journey of becoming. So with this Ubuntu mantra, I am because we are. So what are the roles of my support circle in facilitating my becoming? And I couldn't embark on such a big journey on my own. I needed my tribe. I needed my network. And with the Ubuntu mantra, it says a person is a person through other people, really strikes an affirmation of one's humanity through recognition of another in his or her uniqueness and difference. And I would say that's the reason why I tend to use this Ubuntu mantra, because we tend to create each other and need to sustain this otherness and creation. And if we belong to each other, we participate in our creations. So with my career and then self-development, how did I foster my career development? I continuously set learning goals for myself. And these learning goals could be learning goals that linked to the organizational goals, or it could just be my own personal learning goals. And I was very intentional with my learning. I couldn't be managing a learning and development function and not walking the talk. So for me, it was about, how do I ensure that the people I'm supporting, I'm inspiring them? So I set myself with work challenges, and as I get absorbed in the challenges, which gets me into a state of flow. So and I've read some books from the professor of positive psychology. His name is Professor Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. So if Susan could be kind enough just to drop that in the chat for the audience, that would be very good. I think you should engage with that book from Professor Csikszentmihalyi, and just getting into that state of flow where the challenges, I start to enjoy the challenges and just setting more challenges and getting into that state of flow. So for me, that was a positive. And also, I wasn't afraid to take up, to learn something new. And I think it just, I will come back to that later on. It's just because I was so curious. And I know there's a saying back at home in Africa that curiosity kills the cat, but I don't call myself a cat, I'm a lioness. So curiosity couldn't kill me. So for me, it just helps me to develop further. So it's just identifying what are the skill set I need to develop along the way. So I really did not put my development in the hands of my land manager. My development was my sole responsibility. And that's what I would say to you here today. Your development is your responsibility. Our line managers are swamped, they are busy. They cannot really support you in that regard. So you need to own your development. And that's what I say to people as well that I support as well along the journey. And this quote from Lovey Ajayi Jones really resonates with me in coming out of my comfort zone. I need to move this. It's covering me from reading the, okay. So this is where she said that our comfort zones are not the place where big things are waiting for us. They are not the place where the best life that we want to live is actually waiting for us. It's because he said, because the reason why it's comfortable is because you have learned all you had to learn. There's nothing in there that challenges you, and there's no way you are going to grow. And I would say this, a lot of us are actually maybe stuck in the job where we are doing, and we've learned all we can learn, and we really don't see anywhere. Where's the next place we can find something that challenges us? So I think intentionally for me, what I did was stepping out of my comfort zone. Was even with my research, I was already working in the space of learning and development, and I was comfortable with it, with actually my role at that time. But I think because there was an organizational issue, and there was a strategic aim for the organization to become a learning organization. Immediately, I took that upon myself. This was a challenge. This was something I was going to enjoy. This was something I was going to research about. This was something that was going to keep me going in the next 5 years. Did I see what was at the end of the tunnel? No. Did I understand the full process? No. Did I understand what was going to come up of me? No. Did I know that I was going to be crying as well in that journey? No. But I just took it as a challenge. I said, if I need to come out here and develop and grow, then I need to take these steps. Just a moment, let me move to the next slide. So I have this diagram here, which is looking at your comfort zone. And in the middle there, that's the space. That's where a lot of learning happens. So the sacrifice for us, where we move outside of our comfort zone into that space where we are able to find opportunities, where we are able to find growth and development, developing our potentials. So this is where the real learning happens. This is where we are developing ourselves. And learning that happens here could be spontaneous. It could be learning at any time. And this is why, as part of my research, I was saying, you do not learn only when you go into a classroom. You learn as well in the flow of work. So this is why I use the model, the 70-20-10, without being prescriptive with the numbers. And the learning can happen at any time as well. So the learning is unexpected. There's some learning I had along the way that it was unexpected. I wasn't expecting it. And the learning in these places outside of our comfort zone can be fluid, it can be dynamic, it's self-directed, it's you taking full responsibility of your development. And this learning could be experiential and also could be adaptive. So what did I get? What I did to get out of my comfort zone? So what is it? Like I mentioned earlier, it's about seeking out a problem. Fine, I didn't go intentionally seeking out the problem just came up. And I think if I wasn't worried that, if I didn't have that mindset that I really want to develop here, when the problem came, I would have said, pass over, I couldn't do this. But then an issue came in the organization, which was, I mentioned earlier, the organization had a strategic aim of really becoming a learning organization, and they really didn't know how to get there. They really didn't know what type of learning organization they would become. And that fell on me because I was managing the learning and development function at that time. And I decided to take that problem and merge it to a PhD action research, which I got after 4 years 4.5 years along the way. So I prepared myself actually for where I was aspiring to go outside of my comfort zone by actually engaging in research. And I recognized as well the pathways to where I wanted to go outside of my comfort zone. Even though I recognized the pathway, it wasn't clear. There were instances where I knew this was the pathway, but I really didn't know how to get there. But I just took steps. I just took the baby steps. I just kept going and being with one of that skill that I have hopeful expectation, knowing that yes, whilst I keep doing the right thing, things will fall into place. So I really walked around the processes of adapting and evolving along the way. What I was doing as I was going along, I was scared. I wouldn't tell you that I was just so brave like the lioness. No, there were instances I was scared as I embarked on the journey of a researcher. Getting into the higher institution, I would go into Bolton, and my professor then would ask me to come present on what I was doing. I will be shaking and my legs, I would think I want to die, but I would do it anyway, because I knew if I didn't practice it, I wouldn't get good at actually presenting to people and sharing my work. So this was something, I think, the kind of support I got from my professor in the University of Bolton. So any little step I make, I will come back to the university and I will also share my story as well to colleagues and also to others. So what I did quickly along the way was to put like a 2-minute elevator speech to tell somebody, this is Kesiena Ebenade, this is my research, this is what I'm doing, this is what I plan to get out of it. So when they asked me some questions, those questions also helped me to go do more work. And then I could have answers to some of the questions. And then there are times I wouldn't have an answer to some of the questions. And I think I really developed a findability strategy, which I will talk to you about. And I shared my work via international conferences and also for peer review. And quickly, while I was still doing my research, that's when I published my first paper. And that paper, I can tell you, won the highly commended Literati award from Emerald. So I was constantly doing those things that terrified me. While I was doing them, I was scared, but I did them anyway. And currently now I'm looking to publish a guidebook now. I've started on the journey. It's difficult, but I will do it. Just writing a guidebook for learning and development practitioners on becoming a learning organization. Because what's out there at the moment, a lot of practitioners cannot really engage with the academic books, I think, because of the language. It's difficult for them to actually break those things down. So for me, as a practitioner and also a researcher, I know what the need is in that regard. So that's what the book is going to be speaking to. So really this picture here is really saying your comfort zone, moving into the space where those magic things happen. It takes time, it takes effort. You could cry along the way. You could feel discouraged along the way, but move. That's what I would say. So for me, it's really replacing the fear of the unknown with curiosity. I knew I was afraid, and I knew I was afraid of the unknown on what I was going to become. People asked me a lot of questions. What are you going to do with this PhD? Even my colleagues at work did. And I said, I don't know, but I just want to do it. And they said, really? I said, yes. I said, I really don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I know I want to do it. So while I was afraid of what was out there, but because I knew I was very curious. So it's just really replacing my fear with curiosity while I went on this journey. And curiosity as a vehicle for learning was crucial for me, because being curious enabled me to develop my creativity and innovation skills. I had to grow into the spaces I was aspiring to get to. I had to grow into greatness. I had people I was inspired by, and I developed myself so I could emulate or get better at those things that I was aspiring to be. And I also learned from different sources that are outside of my circle. So I look at, for example, how people present, how they talk, how they give speeches, how they talk about their research, and I get cues from that. And I'm also using and learning from that as well in my journey of becoming. And I went to the places. These were places I was afraid to venture in, but I did it anyway. And I think curiosity as a skill and strength also helped me to get there. And this slide resonates very well with me, because the key learning from my journey of becoming is this quote from Toni Morrison resonates very well. Just remember that your real job is that if you are free, you need to free somebody else. So if you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else. While I've been empowered along the way, I am not oblivious of my own responsibility as well to empower those as well that I meet in the journey. And I could say that at least 6 women, because they saw me doing a doctorate degree, they've embarked on their journey, and 2 of them are finished and the other 4 are still on this journey of becoming. They said, if I could do it, they can do it as well. So I just wanted to share that because I think women supporting women is very, very crucial. And yes, I think this slide as well is also great because they're looking at the tool for development more effective than the empowerment of women in the world. So for me, the key learning is here. Go out every day. And this quote from T.D. Jakes, he said, go out every day with the mindset to learn. The world is a university, and when you wake up in the morning, make sure you go to school. For me, is staying teachable, means continuously learning to learn. And this usually is, people say, I've heard, he says it's difficult, just continuously learning to learn. So for me, this is one of the key learning I learned along the way, and I thought it would be useful to share that as well. So what are some of these steps I took on my pilgrimage? I will share that now. So for me, one of the things was taking control. And I think this quote from Franklin Roosevelt, he said, the best thing a man can have is not strength, but it is control. For me, it was to take control of the situation I was in then at the moment. As a single parent with 3 children, I had to take control of my family. I had to take control of my practice. That was my place of work. And I had to take control of my research. I was focused, because without focus, I couldn't do all of this. With 3 children under 10, doing a doctorate on my own, full-time, and working full-time. I thought that was, and the only skill I thought I needed then was focus. And I tell this to my children, I say, if you hear 10 dogs barking along the way, do not stop to stare at them, because they will stop you in your journey. You're going to spend time doing things that are irrelevant. I said, focus, because my son then, he was 14 and asked me, Mom, what was the secret? How did you achieve this? I said, focus. That was the key ingredient for me. And I thought it would be useful to share this with you as well. So how did I raise my visibility as a academic? Yeah, I think assessing the right kind of visibility, we all know, is essential for actually assessing opportunities to actually advance in both academia and also in the industry. So like I said earlier, I engaged in a lot of networking and having my 2 minutes elevator speech ready at any given time, and also with my LinkedIn and ResearchGate connections, and also developing a conference friendship. I have got friends, a lot of friends, and made them at conferences. And with that conference friendship has developed into real friendships as well. And I have also professional and organizational friendships. So all of these help me as well to raise my visibility. So for me, the first thing I did when I embarked on this journey of becoming was developing a findability strategy. How can people find me? Because it's not a case of me being a subject matter expert as an academia. Do people know who I am? Do I just put focus on ability as opposed to visibility? So I'm thinking, with all of the academic laurels and capabilities, if people do not know what I do, how does that benefit me? So there is a biblical verse that which I find speaks to this. It said, you do not light a candle and put it under the table. The candle gives visibility to your surroundings. So it's meant to be on a lampstand. So to raise my academic profile, I needed to put myself out there intentionally. Was I afraid most times? Yes, but I did it anyway. So key takeaway for me on my journey of becoming is be brave. I followed my vision, I followed my dream, and I had some very big dreams. Some I've achieved, some I've not achieved, but I'm still there on the journey of becoming. Fear, did I have fear? Of course, certainly I was afraid, but I was scared, but I did it anyway. So for me, it's all about taking that leap of faith. Visibility, like I said earlier on, be visible. Be visible, and people want to see what you know. People want to see you. People want to hear what you have to say. And for me, self-development, continuous learning, reflecting, adapting and evolving along the way is very, very critical. For me, is don't be shy to speak about your work, seek feedback from peers, from mentors, from colleagues, and also your inner circle. And also at any given time, if you're working on different projects, prepare a 5 minutes presentation on that project and share it. Whether people want to listen or not, ask them, say you're just looking for feedback, share. And that also has helped me along the way. And I will share some support tools and resources in the journey of becoming. I intentionally, in this regard, I went out to seek out coaches, people to coach me, to mentor me. I intentionally did that. And I also applied the self-coaching technique as well to myself. So these are all support and development tools available, and they are very, 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 very useful, I would say. And also some of another support tool and resource in the journey of becoming, where we use this GROW model. And I think it's just an acronym. So the G is for goal. And this is as well, as an individual, while you are seeking out a coach, or you are going to be coaching yourself, you have to define what is the goal you are trying to achieve at this time. Your goal must be specific, and it must be measurable and achievable. You have to look at your current, your reality. Where are you now? It is best to take a very holistic or helicopter view of your current reality from this is where I am and this is where I want to be. So that as well will also help you. And you're looking at options that are available to you. So analyzing the options and also optimal solutions that are available to you. And you can rate your own options as well to decide on the attractiveness of each option with your coach, or you can do that individually. So the YDW finally is the will do, what's the outcome? It's what will you be doing, and you must constantly review your outcomes and how your goals will be achieved. So you are here now. So what you can change is in the past. Where you are now, you're looking at this moment. So what you can change is in the future. So I would say you are here. What lies in the future, that's what you need to focus on and do that. Steve Harvey, the American comedian, he said, once in your lifetime, you need to jump. When he said that, jumping is, you may get injured as you jump. It's discomforting to jump, but he said, once in your lifetime, you must take that leap of faith and jump. So this quote from Nora Roberts says, if you don't go far, if you don't go after what you want, you will never have it. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you don't step forward, you are always in the same place. Leap, I would say, take the leap. So every day is a new beginning. Take a deep breath, smile, and start again. Trust the wait, embrace the uncertainty, enjoy the beauty of becoming. When nothing is certain, anything is possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, always takes a little minute to put on my audio and video. No, I'm really looking forward to the guidebook for the learning and development practitioner, developing practitioner. I think that will be quite useful. And also, someone had commented in the chat during your talk that they enjoyed the replacing fear with curiosity. And also, I would say, because I was thinking, you know, when you lose hope, because you had mentioned have hopeful expectation. Mm-hmm. It sounds, I had a question, what would be your solution for that? But I think you answered it in your talk, because again, get in touch with your curiosity. When you find that you're losing hope, and you know, it's difficult to wake up another day just as things are not working for you, if your results aren't coming through, or get in touch with your curiosity. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I will. Yeah. Curiosity will cats, it won't kill lions.
Yeah, I love that you're a lioness, not a cat. That's perfect. I think we all need to get in touch with our inner lioness. I see we have a few questions. I think Amy is going to start from the Q&A box.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much for your presentation. So the first question we have was asked by Vicky Guy, and they would like to know, did you construct your vision of what you wanted to do and then try to build your support network around it? Or did you organically build your support network, which allowed your next step to evolve?
Yes, I would think a bit of both. So when I knew what I wanted to do and the people I was hanging with didn't look like what I wanted to become. I had to intentionally go seek those people I wanted to, I was aspiring to be like them in that regard. So not copying them. So for me was to define who is in my circle, why I had existing people in my circles, but I knew those people could not help me get to that place I was aspiring to go to. So for me, intentionally, I started building that network. So it took time, but I've got a very solid network now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for such a, inspiring talk. And we have another question from the panel, or from the chat box there. It's actually from Anonymous, but it's asking, how do you keep the motivation and drive when you are in the learning space?
For me, there will always be challenges and new mountains to conquer at any stage, whether in the motivation stage or any stage I'm in. So for me, I tend to take time to enjoy my wins. And if there are any losses along the way, I learn from them, I move forward and I try again. But for me, I reward myself at every stage. So if I go to it, like now after this presentation, the shops are opening up on the 17th. I'm going to get myself something for a job well done. After every little win, I learn, I reward myself. And if I experience losses, I'll step back, I learn from them, and I do better next time.
So wonderful advice. I like that. Reward yourself. I think we should do that more frequently. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for your talk today. I really appreciate it. And as many of our attendees in the chat are sharing, your talk was inspirational and motivating, which was its intent. I had a quick question for you, just in terms of maintaining that motivation. What strategies can you share for those trying to maintain motivation in academia or in other organizations that are perhaps not supportive or maybe even rigid? How would you go about maintaining that motivation in kind of very inhospitable circumstances?
Yeah, thanks very much, Kathy. And what I would say, especially in my last organization, when I do workshops, and I say to employees, I say, no one can motivate you. What an organization or an institution can do at the best is create that environment that is supportive, an environment that's inclusive, an environment where you can show up, an environment where you have a sense of belonging. Your motivation lies within you. If you've got the right skill set, because if you didn't have the right skill set, you wouldn't be employed into that, into the role you are in at the moment. So if you've got the right skill set, you're looking with this right skill set, what else do I need? You need an environment, but there are instances where the environment is not conducive, it's not hospitable. And have I worked in such an environment? Yes, I have worked in that type of environment. For me, I will not put my joy, my happiness, my motivation in somebody else's hands. While they've created an environment that is not conducive, I go inward and I intentionally, I go pull from my strength. We all have those strengths within us. We all have it. There's no one that is just flat on this motivation. So I go inward and I pull from that, because I use I use what is happening around me to fuel me up. So when I worked in a setting where I wasn't supported to actually develop my skill set, and what I did was to actually go and reinforce and actually put myself into that space where I could learn more than I was actually learning. So for me, you always have these people around you who want to pull you down. You have institutions that will not support you. You have, but I think you look inward, you look, why am I here? What am I here to provide to the world? Because we are all here to fulfill a purpose, and we are unique in all our differences. So for me, is to go inward and say, while I'm not having the right environment at the moment to support me, what can I do to support somebody else? What can I do to motivate someone else? So that's the approach I usually take.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the impressive presentation and inspiring. I have one more question from the audience, asked by Watie. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. I apologize if I'm not. The question is, in my PhD journey now, imposter syndrome for me is the worst and I'm losing momentum. How do you overcome that, doctor?
Yeah, I think we all, with anyone who has gone through that process, there's a saying that you fake it until you make it. The imposter syndrome is there automatically, because I'm thinking, because it's so overwhelming. It's so this is from my perspective. It was so big, and for me, being in industry, going into a space where in academia, I was looking at all the professors. These people are so intelligent. Who am I to come speak to these people? How do I do it? So I would come in afraid, shaking, feeling insecure, having this imposter syndrome, but I did it anyway because I'm there. And one of the PhD students said to me was, "No, Kesiena, we want to hear from you." I said, "Really? What is there that I'm saying?" He said, "No, we want to hear from you. Your research is unique." And if she didn't say that, I wouldn't have known. And I felt, okay, so really, people really wanted to learn from me. And I had to fake it severally, especially even attending these academic conferences. I had to fake it. So I was really appearing there really as an imposter. But then I thought, using that imposter syndrome and doing it anyway, coming out, you understand, just having the imposter syndrome, you can't take it out. I think you develop, you outgrow it. So for me, it's all about still walking in those shoes until the imposter syndrome shoes fall off, and then you wear the shoe of a confident person. I hope that answered your question.
That's a very good advice. Thank you very much. So we have one more question from the chat box, sorry, from the Q&A box. Can you explain the panic zone, please? Is this when there is insufficient learning after a comfort zone?
Yes, so the panic zone, once I saw that diagram, I looked at it and I was like, what does this mean? If you're leaving your comfort zone, you're entering the learning zone. So for me, my understanding of that diagram was the panic zone was like the imposter syndrome zone. So this is where you've had all the learning. You are in that space where you're still having that doubt. So you've grown, you've developed, but you're in that panic zone thinking, do they see this in me? Do they think that I'm worthy? Do they think I know what I know? So it's all about being in that panic zone. Do it panicking.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Also then on the other side of that, have you ever had to deal with critics telling you that you can't do it?
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have more people in this world telling you can't do something than people telling you can't do it. And I think, yes, I had lots of critics. Several people told me when I wanted to embark on this journey, they said, how are you going to do this? You can't do this. How do you want to do it? You have 3 children on your own here. How do you want to do this? And I'm like, okay, the noise was so much. So I had to filter that noise and I had to adapt a strategy to filter the noise. I said, anyway, that's why I'm paying it myself. My PhD cost me £25,000. I said, if I start on this journey and I can't cope, it's my money and I will drop out. I didn't ask you for money. So I would drop out. And then that noise from that perspective reduced. And then you had the other family, even within the family, saying, no, what do you need a PhD for? What are you going to look at your age? What are you going to be doing with a PhD? I said, yeah, let me just have it. Even if I have to die, doing this PhD. Let me just have it. At least I am leaving something for my children. But at least the drive for me to really do this was looking at my children and then looking at me as role models. So for me, I'm their first role model before they go pick somebody else somewhere else. I should be a role model to my children. So when I had that, people telling me, you can't do this, it's for intelligent people, I said, I will crack on. If I can't, I'll drop out. But after the first year, I scaled through. Second year, third year. Was it easy? No. Did I cry? Yes, several times. But I think for me is having a body. I had a friend who embarked on this journey together. So when she's whinging to me, I'm not whinging. When I'm whinging, she's not. So we're just supporting each other. So where she will come that people said this to her, I would encourage her. And when I needed encouragement, she will be there for me. So having a body was very useful for me. But yes, you will certainly have these people. And these people, you use them as the fuel to propel you to be able to achieve it. So you tell them, I told you.
Brilliant. Yes, of course. Use their criticism to fuel you on. Absolutely. That's the best way. Thank you.
That's great. I have another question from an attendee. Bill asks, while fear keeps you in your comfort zone, can its energy also be used positively to move out of it?
Yes. While fear can keep you in your comfort zone, you can also use it as the fuel to move you out of it. So yes, I would say so. I think where the fear becomes negative is where you allow the fear to trap you in that space. So feel the fear and do it anyway.
Thank you very much.
That's the end of the questions, but also I wanted to point out when you had mentioned during your talk the necessity of self-care and self-love. That's not normally associated with an ambitious career, you know, such compassion, but we see that it is quite necessary because usually for ambition, you need to stay focused and need to be unemotional and strong. But you're right in saying that we also need to remember that we have, you know, care and concern that we need to give to ourselves in order to keep going. But I just wanted to finish now with, we have a couple minutes left with a final poll to ask for the attendees that are left. Let me just get this going. So these polls are anonymous, so we don't know how you're answering. So the question for the attendees are, did you learn something new today that can help you with any motivational problems that are happening in your life, whether it's personal or professional? I think definitely from the chat box, we know that a few people were highly motivated, that hearing Dr. Ebenade's words were really good. So, okay, it's been about 30 seconds, so I'll end now and we'll see that it seems we definitely have a few people that have been inspired by today. So thank you very much. Let me just close this. Yes, thank you, Dr. Ebenade.
Thanks, Susan.
And also, just as a reminder, I wanted to show for an upcoming event for June, we're organizing a discussion panel. So if I'm sharing my screen here, if everyone can see that the next event will be in June. It'll be a panel discussion on direct provision. We're just putting the final pieces together, so the details will be announced soon. It should be on Friday, June 18th at the same time at 1 p.m. So just keep an eye out on our social media and on our website for the announcements about the panel event. So thanks everyone for participating today. It seems like a lot of people in the chat were really glad to have the motivation talk, especially at this time during the pandemic. So thanks again, Dr. Ebenade.
Thank you.